Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour here on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio, where we talk all things real estate, mortgages, homes, and community. You name it, we'll talk about it, because everything you can just about relate back to the home buying process. Can you not, Mark?
That's right.
I tell you, speaking of Hot News Talk Radio, it is really hot out there today. And I saw on the weather there's going to be a heat wave coming through. And they were warning, and you almost wonder how they have to tell people this, but please don't be leaving your pets or your children in the cars because they really heat up quickly. I mean, to me, that's just a no-brainer.
Well, common sense is what it should
Not
be.
so common.
No, it's not so common.
Unfortunately. Well, and speaking of hot again, the real estate market is hot, hot, hot.
It is.
We have been selling homes right and left. We are so fortunate. I'm so grateful. The real estate market is truly, truly booming. Just this weekend, sold 2 homes, wrote an offer yesterday, show one wrote it. But let me tell you something. For anybody out there looking at property, if you find a home you like, you better act on it.
Better act quick.
Yeah, don't sleep on it, because I'm telling you, one of our agents today, Harry, who's a great realtor at the Sabrina Real Estate Company, and Harry just listed a property. It was shown for the first time yesterday, and he's calling me getting advice. He's already got multiple offers on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is what we're experiencing. So for sellers, for anyone who's been thinking about possibly selling their home, you've been a little apprehensive, maybe concerned that you would get the price that you want to get, now is the time. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to make that move. Sabrina Realty Associates will be glad to come out and give you a free consultation. Won't cost you a dime. We'll be glad to come out, talk about the list price, where you need to price your home. We'll go through, make recommendations to help you get your home ready for the market. So if you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home, call Sabrina Realty Associates. Our great team is sitting by at 423-499-7780. That's 499-7780. Go to our website, check out our wonderful listings at sabrinarealty.com. The key there is to spell the name correctly, Sabrena realty.com. And if you're thinking about buying, but you don't know if you qualify for a loan, well, Ben or any of his team over at HomeRate Mortgage would love the opportunity to help you get pre-approved and find that next home. How can they get in touch with Ben, Mark?
They get Ben at 423-805-9100. That number's 805-9100. And as Ben's advertisement says so often, why wouldn't you call? It just takes a couple of minutes to find out exactly where you stand as far as qualifying for a loan. And the good thing about that is it lets you know what price range of home you're looking at. You know, if you qualify for a $140,000 home and you've been looking at 180 and 190s, you're wasting your time, you're wasting the realtor's time. And then once you start looking at the $140,000 homes, they're not what the 180 and 90s look like. So now you're a little bummed out. Just go ahead and get with a lender, get pre-approved, because like you said earlier, Sabrina, when you find that house, it's time to move. It's time to move quick because it is very competitive right now.
Yeah, you need to have your ducks in a row, and the rates are phenomenal. I mean, most rates now are between 3% and 4%. We do not know how long that's going to last. So, and I'm just telling you, stop making your landlord rich.
Yeah.
If you're renting, stop making your landlord rich. If you're paying $1,100 for a 2-bedroom apartment, you know what $1,100 will get you in a home? I mean, it's unbelievable. And if you think, well, there may be some things on my credit, well, let me tell you something. Someone that knows what they're doing, which Ben and his team does, they're going to get you on the right track. It may be easier than you think it's going to be to clean up your credit and get ready. And so I would encourage anyone that's thinking about buying, you need to act today. So if you're thinking about selling or buying, there's never been a better time. The real estate market is hot.
Yeah, I mean, real estate, the interest rates between 3 and 4, that's unheard of. Mm-hmm. I think my parents in the 70s, when they bought their home, I think their loan started out at 9 3/4.
Yeah.
They were thrilled to get it.
Probably
because they had friends that had it in the teens, and people were still buying homes. So there's no excuse if it's any time in your foreseeable future. You need to be looking at it now, because what you can get at 3 and 4% is a whole lot more than what you might be getting at 6 and 7 a few years down the road, because we don't know how long they're going to stay where they're at.
Absolutely. And we have joining us today, we do have a special guest in the studios today. We have an interesting fellow by the name of Fred Cornell. And before I tell you what Fred does, I'm going to let Fred welcome Fred. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So before we even get started and tell about what you do, I met you recently at a Chamber of Coffee networking event.
Yes, at Wired out in Ooltewah. Great place to get coffee and to meet people.
Very well attended. A lot of business leaders there. And so it's just a great opportunity to meet people, and to meet you there.
Right.
And right off the bat, we struck up a conversation, and it didn't take me long to figure out that you're a pretty interesting guy. So,
well, thank you.
What I'd like to do, first of all, Fred, is you just kind of tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay.
Tell us about that, and then tell us what you're doing today and what you're here in the studios to talk about today.
Great. Well, that's great. As you say, we met at this coffee mixer. My background is, I'll be 71 this coming Saturday. And so I have an extensive background, but basically in 1992, October 92, I retired from 20 years in the Army.
Wow.
I'd have stayed a little bit longer, but they sent me to Korea 3 times, and they wanted to send me the 4th time. And I said, no, I'm not going 4 times.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. I had a great time, a great experience in the 20 years, just over 20 years. But just after I retired, I was introduced to a company called Legal Shield, and went and learned more about it, Legal Shield and the ID Shield. And it was the ID Shield portion of identity theft that Sabrina and I were talking about. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today, is some information on identity theft and how you can help protect yourself and your family. And I also want to cover a couple other things real quickly. I know there's a big scam going around in Bradley County right now where you receive a phone call saying that a relative of yours failed to appear for jury duty. And so if you send us X number of dollars, we won't come and arrest your relative. Well, scams like that, the counties, the courts, the police don't call. The IRS doesn't call you. So when you get this phone call, hang up on them. When you get that fraudulent email from your bank stating that your account has been breached, please verify your account information with us. Your bank gave you that information in the first place. You don't need to give it to them. So be real careful.
Well, Fred, we're experiencing that even in our industry, and the title companies now are having to warn buyers at the closing table that if someone contacts you and says, hey, send me $80 and we'll send you a copy of your deed,
right,
that is fraud.
Right.
You're going to get a copy of your deed anyway, just for sitting at the closing table and closing with a reputable title company. So there's no point in paying for that service again. It's amazing how many gimmicks there are going on out there. It's really frightening. But for anyone that doesn't know what Legal Shield is, tell us a little bit about Legal Shield, the company, maybe when it was started, and how long they've been in business, and then we'll get into the services and some other things you all do.
Well, great. Well, Legal Shield was founded in 1972 when our founder, Mr. Harlan Stonecipher, had been involved in a head-on collision. The lady that hit him made an illegal turn in front of him. She was cited by the state trooper, but yet in this country, you can be sued for just about anything at any time. And so this lady, her lawyer said, well, let's sue Mr. Stonecipher because he's had some speeding tickets. Well, it was a fraudulent case. It went to court, and he spent his life savings. And he realized there has to be a better way for middle-class Americans to be able to protect themselves from legal events. I'm not talking bank robbery and the major crimes. I'm just talking everyday life events that people don't know what law firm to call. They don't know who to ask questions to. And so Legal Shield was founded in 1972 with the premise of providing quality, top-rate lawyers at affordable costs. And we are we're the largest provider of legal plans and identity theft services in North America today. We're the big dogs in the park.
Wow. it's a shame that there's a need for this, but I know that there is, and it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Right.
What are some of the services that Legal Shield offers, and what are those costs? Because for someone thinking, wow, this has to be expensive, I'm sure you have different levels of services, and kind of discuss that. Maybe the simplest and then the more.
Well, it's basically like having insurance, but it's not insurance. It's a monthly membership. Several of the things that it covers, and it covers more than we can talk here in just a couple minutes, but you could pick up the phone, call your law firm, ask any legal question, get an answer, and not get a bill on an unlimited number of I mean, you could call 100 times a day if you had that many legal issues. It's unlimited telephone consultation. If you get a speeding ticket, and I've had a few, my daughter's had a few, they will send a lawyer to court for you at no additional cost. They will review.
Can they get you out of them?
Well, they might get you out of it, but they're not going there to fix that ticket. Right. They're going there to present a defense for you.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, every speeding citation that I've had, my wife's had, and my daughter's had have all been dismissed. Now, of course, they're not. Well, maybe I'm lucky, but they're going to provide a great defense. They will also, as I say, review all your contracts and documents up to 15 pages at no additional cost. It does a whole lot more, but what caught my attention when I first saw this back in 2004 was that they will provide for the member and their spouse or significant other is a will, a living will, and a healthcare power of attorney. Those three documents for the two adults. And those documents, each, a will can be 500, 1,000 or more. But those three documents for my wife and I, those 6 documents, with our monthly membership of $19.95 is what it costs. And it does a lot more than that. That's just the highlights of our legal plan. Our identity theft service, the ID Shield. Let's go back, $19.95 with a legal plan for a family. A single person is $9.95. It does the same thing. It's just cheaper. The ID Shield, again, will cover the member and their spouse or significant other, and up to 8 children for $19.95. A single person, the ID Shield is $9.95. And again, it covers all 6 categories of identity theft, and most people aren't aware that there are 6 categories of identity theft.
Exactly.
The major categories are credit fraud, Social Security, driver's license, medical, criminal and character, and tax.
Well, why should, if you were to tell someone what's the number one reason why they should use Legal Shield, what would that number one reason be?
Well, for me, it would be peace of mind and cost, because I know I don't even have to know the phone number for my law firm, and each state, with the exception of Alaska, has a major provider law firm. I don't even have to go into my phone and go into the phone numbers and call. All I do is tap the app, and it calls the law firm for me, gets a lawyer on the phone that I can say, this is what's going on. What are my rights? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? And that phone call and that answer is not going to cost me 1 additional cent over my $19.95 a month. Right. So I would say peace of mind and protection is what Legal Shield gives me, because, and we also have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency hotline. If I'm out and have a legal emergency, a traffic accident with injuries, or if I get arrested, or if you have children that Child Protective Services tries to take your children, you can get a lawyer on the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's included in the $19.95. So you can find out right then what my rights are at 2 or 3 in the morning, Sunday, or whatever day it is.
That's pretty good.
It's very good when with the average attorney charging $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour.
And rising, no doubt about it. What is the most common type of identity theft that you're seeing right now?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, because, as I say, I am not one of the investigators.
Yeah.
I suspect, though, that it's probably in the character or criminal area, where if someone gets your driver's license information and goes out of state and maybe gets a drunk driving ticket or a speeding ticket and doesn't show up for court, Well, who are they going to come looking for? They're going to come looking for you? No, they're going to go after the person that used your identity, which they think is you. So if they use it in, say, Texas for a drunk driving ticket, and then 6 months later, when you haven't shown up for court, you're driving down here in Chattanooga with your taillight out, and they're going to stop you and say, ma'am, get out of the car. You're under arrest. And you say, for what? For the drunk driving ticket that you received in Texas. Well, I've never been to Texas. I don't drink.
Right.
Well, the police hear that all the time. So you're going to end up going to jail, probably being extradited to Texas and having to fight that.
I will not be happy if that happens.
I wouldn't be either. Or medical identity theft is another big one, where they get a hold of your medical insurance numbers. They use it, and that can do several things. Of course, it can affect your deductible. You're going to get bills for it, and it could possibly change information in your medical records that can be critical for your health later on.
Yeah, that someone would be brave to do that, because you don't know what kind of condition that the person who you're tampering with their information, what kind of condition they're dealing with. So it sounds like you all probably have a strong relationship and partnership with local police, FBI, if necessary, and the IRS.
Not really.
Really.
The company that does our identity theft restoration, by the way, we have the only company that does 100% restoration for our members, which means when your identity is stolen, you call Kroll.
Right.
You sign a limited power of attorney. They go to work. They don't stop until it's fixed. And we have a $5 million service guarantee, which means if they have to pay that investigator $5 million to fix it, that's what's going to take. And they won't stop till it's done. We're the only company that does restoration 100%. Other companies out there will send you a packet of information, and good luck with that. I mean, where would you start?
Well,
People,
that's right.
They don't know where to start.
That's right. Now, for your members,
right,
or potential clients, do they give you full access to their accounts? Do you have all that information? I asked that because you were talking about how someone can get your information and use it in Texas and so forth. Something we personally experienced with, and thank God our bank called us. This has happened 2 or 3 times though within the past year and a half. It's amazing how frequent. But someone had my debit card information.
Right.
And they were in the same day, get this, someone was using it in South Carolina and someone was using it in Florida. And so my bank called me and wanted to know, hey, I mean, they were suspicious right off the bat. How can you be in South Carolina and Florida?
Exactly.
Plus, I was at Chick-fil-A in Chattanooga.
I've had this happen. Oh, I'm sorry.
Got a fast car.
I've had this happen. And when I travel across the country, I'll have one of my credit card companies just shut it off. If I go like to Oklahoma, they'll just shut off, and then I call them and say, no, I forgot to tell you I'm going to Oklahoma. But no, as far as giving information, no, you do not give me any information. I am a marketing associate. The information that you provide to Kroll and to Legal Shield, the law firm, is on a need-to-know client privilege-based information, need-to-know information. But let me go back to debit cards. From what I've heard and continue to be told, if you have an opportunity to use your card as credit or debit, use it as credit, because it makes it harder for the identity thief to use, and it puts more liability back on the financial institution if it's credit.
Yeah.
And one thing I also wanted to mention with the Social Security that a lot of people don't realize, when I grew up, I didn't get a Social Security card till I was 16 or 15, but nowadays babies get it when they're 2 or 3 days old. And when an infant's Social Security card number is stolen and used, that child's probably not going to find out about it until they're 17, 18, 19, going to apply for college. And then say, well, you bought a home out in California, you bought a car. Well, yeah, I was 3 years old. How did I do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
These companies, basically, they don't care. You are at fault but then again, Kroll can get to work on that and get it restored for you without you doing the work. You just sign the limited power of attorney, and they are the only company that out there that will do 100% restoration as one of our members.
Well, some of these con artists are actually selling the Social Security numbers, aren't they? Because I know, what was it, about 3 years ago when we were going to do our tax return, our accountant, he needed a lot of additional information that year. And he said, because they were having such a problem with Social Security numbers being stolen, and people like up north in New York and all over the country were using these Social Security numbers, and that there were actually those numbers were being sold to individuals.
That's, yes, a lot of information is sold, but Social Security numbers specifically, you can go, I understand, to a lot of flea markets in different parts of the country and buy a Social Security number. And there's these states that have the, whatever they call it, the right to work or whatever, where you give them a Social Security number and they check, and all they're doing basically is checking to see, yes, that's a valid Social Security number. Not that it's yours, but again, they will sell that number to not just one person. They'll sell it all across the country.
Yeah.
The same with your medical records or any information like that, your driver's license number. The more times they sell it, that's more money for the identity thief, and they don't care who they sell it to. And one of the things that I encourage people to do with their Visa cards or credit cards or debit cards, if you even suspect there's something wrong with it, call your bank, put a freeze on it, change your password constantly. Don't make it something like your name, your date of birth, your kids' names.
Exactly.
Make it something that
not common.
And you're not supposed to write them down. And I'm not going to say I write mine down, but don't make it your wife's name and date of birth or your kids. Make it something that, you just pulled out of the thin air. But yeah, identity thieves will sell all forms of identity, your name, your date of birth. They'll sell it 100 times a day if they can, because it's, whatever they make for it, it's more money for them. Then those people will use it in turn and cost you even more stress and grief. So,
well, it's amazing how easy it is too, going back to the debit card, how easy it is to just use someone's number. I mean, you can go online with Amazon or a lot of these companies and just order up. I know that happened to our son. He was very young, about 20 or 21, and he got notice from SunTrust. I mean, his account was overdrawn. Someone had gone in there and went online and ordered all this stuff through Amazon. It was unreal. And it's easy to do. And
Amazon doesn't care. They just want to sell the stuff and get their money. So it's just, it's you just got to be really super careful.
Yeah. And more people shop online now anyway.
Exactly.
So you do have to be careful. There's no doubt about it. Something else that I know is happening a lot here locally is when you go to get gas, they have got a device where you swipe your credit card and they immediately get your account information. So you need to look before you swipe that card, see if there's anything suspicious when you're pumping gas, because you can usually identify it if you look at it closely.
And if you think there is, go inside and use your card, or go inside and pay with cash.
Absolutely.
Let me, real quick, if this is a good place to do it, give my phone number in case people have questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred, and we're going to have you back too after the break, but go ahead and give your number.
The number is 423-331-7175. That's 423-331-7175. And if your employer or your church or club would like a free identity theft workshop, no obligation workshop, we'll be glad to come and help you.
Yeah, let's talk more about that after the break when we come back. Let's talk about some services that you guys are willing to come out and do. I know you've offered to come to our company too. So let's talk about that after the break. Anyway, join us at 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio, the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour. We will be back in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour, where we talk mortgages, homes, a lot of things, community, and just a lot of hot topics, whatever's currently happening. You can catch us every Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, right here on 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio. And we are returning back with our guest, Fred Cornell, and he is with Legal Shield. And if you missed the first half, Legal Shield is a company that helps you with identity theft, and hopefully it's helping to stop it before it happens. but if it does happen, then there's things set up to come into place.
Exactly. Well, there's really, Mark, there's no 100% guarantee of stopping identity theft, because identity thieves seem to be one step ahead of the law. But the great thing about ID Shield, which is part of our Legal Shield services, it will do 100% restoration for our members, so that you'll have that peace of mind of knowing that, yeah, not if, but when any one of the 6 categories of my identity are stolen, all I have to do is turn the matter over to ID Shield, and they're trained investigators, which mostly are retired FBI or CIA forensic type investigation, will go to work and restore your credit or your whatever category of identity was stolen.
Okay. Hey, before we went to the break, Sabrina had mentioned, and this has happened a couple of times to us, somehow someone has gotten our debit card information and they've used that. And I've noticed online a couple of times it's talking about a skimmer or skimming.
Correct.
What is that, a device that's actually on the credit card machine at the gas pumps that the thief adds?
Well, they don't add it. What they do is they will go in and replace the credit card reader that's in the pump at the gas station with their own skimmer. And that's why you'll notice a lot of gas stations, they'll have a tape over the credit card that has numbers and names, so that if that's cut or broken in any way, they'll know that that has been tampered with. Identity thieves also can carry scanners or skimmers in their pockets and walk past you in the mall or in the store, and those devices can actually read your credit card while it's in your wallet or your pocket. We provide small envelopes, credit card size, for your credit and debit cards that are a special metallic lined paper that prevent that.
So there's a machine and they can walk past you in a store.
Correct.
And it will read what's in your wallet and your pants pocket.
Exactly. Or your purse, if you're a lady carrying a purse. Yeah, like I say, identity thieves, I think, are usually 1 or 2 steps ahead of the law, because they're out to make money, and so they're coming up with any kind of way or device to take your money.
It is unbelievable.
And I've actually had some of my credit card companies call me when I travel across the country. They'll shut my credit card off. If I travel from here to California, they may shut it off in Oklahoma or Arizona. And then I have to call them up and say, oh, I forgot to tell you I'm traveling. But some of them are very conscious about that, and do help to keep an eye on it for you. But I think the identity thieves, they're working as hard as they can to beat the system in any way they can.
Well, it sounds like they've got a lot of talent. They're just directing it to the wrong things.
Exactly. Well, I remember hearing, you may remember hearing, I think it was about 6 months or a year ago, there was a couple of young men that the FBI had come across that were as smart as, or maybe a little bit smarter than some of their own IT people. Yeah. And I think they ended up hiring one of them because, these identity thieves, they're very intelligent, especially if they're working with computers in any way to get your information electronically. Yeah. And most are not even in this country. And so there's almost no way of catching them because they're in Europe or Africa or South America, and our law enforcement can't even touch them.
Well, that was my next question. I'm just curious if they ever get caught. So you're saying that a lot of this stuff is done over the internet, over computers, and they don't even need to be on our continent to do all this.
That's correct. Most of them are not even in this country. And so, once they can identify where they're at, but identifying the individual may be possible, but then there's virtually no way to prosecute them because most countries will not extradite them. So you're just, they continue to do what they do. A good example was I received a letter that was mailed to me from Canada when I lived in Buffalo, New York, that said I'd won a couple of $100,000 from one of these sweepstakes. And all I needed to do was deposit the check that they sent me to cover the income tax. Well, this major company, they don't care if you pay your income tax, but this was a fraud, and they wanted me to deposit that check into my account and then give them the account information so they could send the rest of my winnings. And of course, I suspect what was going to happen as soon as I give them that account information, while I'm sitting there talking to them, even on the phone, they're going to be draining my account. And so I kind of suspected it was fraud. And so I turned it over to my Legal Shield law firm, and they said, yes, this definitely was a fraud. So you have to be real careful if you get a phone call or a letter saying that you won something and we need your account information, because if they're asking for your account information, it's a fraud. If they're asking for money up front, it's more than likely a fraud. If your bank's asking you to verify your account information, they gave it to you.
They know it. They have it.
They have it. Why they wouldn't be asking? You know, it's like me calling my son saying, Robert, what's your birth date again? You know, I know what it is.
Right.
And so if somebody else is asking you to verify some information, you should be very leery, and I would hang up on them myself.
Yeah. You know, a couple of years ago, Sabrina and I, we had a little classic car that we decided to sell. We didn't really have room for it. So I put it on Craigslist, actually, and got some response. Had a number of people from Europe interested in it. And I was very wary, but I emailed back and forth, and this guy seemed really legitimate. So we went to our bank, told them what we were going to do, opened up a different account,
right,
a whole separate one, deposited $1 in it, and he wired the money over. And then the people that were going to be picking it up, taking it to the ocean liner that would ship it over,
right,
they did all their part, and it actually worked out good. I was a little nervous the whole time, but we sent a car to the Netherlands, and it went as everybody expected.
Well, I would have been like you, very leery,
Yep.
very suspicious, because more than likely what that individual wants you to do is they might say, well, I'll send you 50% and you deposit it in your bank and then give me the account number. And while you're sitting there giving him the account number, have his buddy sitting next to him on another computer, and they just drained your account. And so, yeah, I would be very, very leery about doing any business online, especially Craigslist, because you hear all these horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
On Craigslist. You know, it's probably not the best place to do any business.
Oh, you know, for years and years, when somebody was going to do identity theft, they actually literally needed to get the man or the woman's wallet. They needed that Social Security card. They needed to hold the credit card to get the number. They needed to see the driver's license and all that. But things have totally changed now, and they can literally just do it over the internet. I was looking online a few days ago, and they can get some information about a person off of a social networking site, Facebook, right, and that different stuff. And so how do they pull all that stuff together? I guess they've got so much experience, they can pull information from different places and compile enough to actually create.
It's amazing what they do. And there's one thing that most people aren't aware of. There's what they call the black internet, where these identity thieves are gathering information, collecting information, selling information. Because if you and I are both identity thieves, and say you're in Europe and I'm in South Africa, I might call you, hey, Mark, I need 10 more social security numbers. So you sell me 10 social security numbers that you've gotten, that you probably bought from somebody else, and then I'm going to sell them to somebody else. And so that information just keeps revolving around. And so then I get, they're creating what they call synthetic identities for a person. They'll get your name, my date of birth, somebody else's social security number, and create a new person. And then you have 2 or 3 people whose identities have been illegally used or obtained in some way to a degree. But yeah, getting information now for identity thieves seems to be so easy. That's why, like I say, I encourage people to change their usernames, their passwords regularly. If you think you have an issue with a credit card, call the bank, say, hey, I want a new credit card. I want this one turned off. Go without it for a couple of days is, I think, safer than having somebody use it, and then you end up with a bill that you don't want to pay. That's not yours.
Do you think, okay, are you suggesting doing that if you have a feeling something might be going on, or do you suggest them doing that ever so often just to keep it fresh and different?
Well, I definitely would do it if you think something's going on with your credit card or your debit card. It's all you have to do is pick up the phone, call your financial institution and say, hey, I think someone else has my credit card information. Sometimes your bank will tell you, hey, we think this is a fraudulent charge on here. If you think it is, put a freeze or a hold or whatever your bank does, or order a new card, go in and change your password if you're using it at your ATM. It's easy to do. Change it every month, every week, if if you feel more comfortable doing that. And then I'll say, keep an eye on the other areas of identity theft, because credit card is actually the smallest of the 6 areas of identity theft. The other, character and driver's license, medical, those are much bigger and much more widely used. And social security numbers. Just remind most people that aren't aware that babies nowadays get their social security card, I think, at 2 or 3 days old. My next to the youngest grandson was 6 months old last week, and he got his social security number, I think, when he was like a week old. So the identity thieves, if they get a hold of that, will have 15, 16, 17 years to use it, except we have his monitored. And if he got to be 18 to go to college and was applying for a loan for a car and say, well, you defrauded on a loan, 15 years ago. Say, yeah, I would have been 3 years old. Yeah. These companies really don't care. They just want their money back. And so with our service, you'll get the continuous monitoring. You'll get notifications if they think there's something going on, where if somebody applies for a credit card, like you say, your wife had it used in one state and then within a matter of hours used, hundreds and hundreds of miles away, which is almost physically impossible to do. Like I say, I think these identity thieves are generally 1 or 2 steps ahead of the law, and they keep thinking and progressing and getting better at what they do, which is worse for us.
Right. I read online that if somebody can get a Social Security number, they can use it to receive federal benefits. They can use it to file taxes. They can even use it to get a job. So how can somebody get my Social Security number and end up getting a job with it? I mean, you'd think the employer would have to realize, this Social Security number is tagged to a guy in Chattanooga, but here he is in Minnesota. I mean, does it get that deep, or is it all just on a computer and there's no eyes that are looking at it?
Well, you would think that, when I was growing up, I thought, well, I'm the only one that has my Social Security number. But no, now in this electronic age, these verification or whatever they call it, Tennessee is one of the states that verifies a Social Security number. They are verifying the Social Security number, not that it's yours. They're saying, yes, this is a good Social Security number. Like I say, so an identity thief sells me your Social Security number, and I go up to Washington State and apply for a job. Or they sell it to a lady. They're not going to say, oh, well, this belongs to Mark. You're not a Mark. You're Helen. No, they're just verifying that Social Security number is a valid Social Security number. They get the job. You get the letter eventually from the IRS saying, hey, you didn't pay the taxes on this job that was worked for years and years and years. You owe us thousands of dollars in back taxes. And that leads to another area. One of the most recent is income tax identity theft, where I get your an identity thief gets your Social Security number, files your income tax. They get the return, and then you go in and file yours, and they say, you already filed it. We already sent you a check. Well, no, you didn't. Well, yes, we did. You have to then prove that wasn't you that filed that fraudulent income tax, and people won't know what to do. With our service, with the ID Shield, you sign the limited power of attorney, and they will go to work, and they will get the matter resolved. And we have a $5 million service guarantee, which means if it takes that investigator that long, $5 million in salary or wages for him to be paid to fix it, that's what they're going to do. It usually doesn't take that long because these are trained, expert investigators.
Right. You would almost think in this day and time, at some point, everybody's ID is going to be compromised. I mean, eventually.
Exactly. It's not if your identity is stolen, because remember, there are 6 categories. So that gives them 6 times the opportunity to steal or use someone's identity, whether it's Social Security, credit, driver's license, and character. But yes, it's not if, it's when. Most people are aware because we hear it on the news. Last year alone, there were almost 800 breaches. I'm not talking pants that you put on to ride horses, but I'm talking breaches of major companies. I just heard the last one just the other day. Some identity thieves had hacked into this company's credit card use. So they had the person's name, their credit card number, the PIN number, and anything else that
probably
was associated.
An address.
All that information. And that one business alone had thousands of customers. So there were almost 800 breaches with over 200 million victims. And I mean, it's just growing constantly. It's almost weekly or daily that we hear that some major company has had their computer system hacked and their customers, their employees' information has been stolen.
That's unbelievable. I think wasn't Target
was
about
one
a
of the
year or so ago.
Target was one of the big ones, but I forget what chain of stores it was, but just recently had their credit card customer. Oh, I think it was Lowe's, but it was a major company that they hacked in and got all that information. Like you say, they have the name, your address, everything they need to continue with another form of identity theft against you. So it's just, you don't just become a victim of one, you could possibly become a victim of any or all 6 of them. But again, the major thing that our company does is besides the continuous monitoring, they will notify you. And if there is an area that your identity is stolen, they will get to work and restore it for you rather than send you a packet of information for you. Would you know, Mark, if your Social Security number was stolen, would you know where to start to say?
I would call you, and it'd probably be too little too late. I should have called you before it happened.
That's true. But what you do, say I've been with Legal Shield and ID Shield now since 2004. I have never learned what to do because I don't need to know what to do. I sign a limited power of attorney and they will go to work and restore it, whether it's for myself, my wife, our daughter, who is on our membership. Well, she was at the time, but now she has her own. Our service will cover a single person, of course, but it also will cover a family of 2 adults or 1 adult and up to 8 children.
Wow.
For $19.95. A single person, it's $9.95, and that's the same as our legal plan, $19.95 for a family with no limit on children, or a single individual for $9.95.
Do the children have to live at home?
No, they do not have to live at home. They have to be never married. They could be off to college.
Okay.
But they have to, basically, yes, mom and dads, they're your dependent. They're using your address as home, but they can be off to school anywhere, and still be on your legal plan and your identity theft plan.
But once they finish college, buy a home, move out, they really need their own plan.
Well, up to the age of 26.
26, okay.
But yeah, if they move out and are on their own, I would encourage them to get their own plan as a single person, $9.95 for all that
$10
protection a month. Like I say, the thing that I really like about this, it gives me the protection and the peace of mind of knowing I don't even have to memorize the phone number or go into my telephone contact list. All I do is push an app on my telephone, my smartphone, and it'll dial up our Tennessee provider law firm information, or if I need identity theft, it will dial up Kroll, and I'm talking directly with Kroll or with our law firm and with a lawyer, not a paralegal. I get my advice and help from a lawyer.
That's impressive. Well, and you said you started in 2004.
That's correct. That's what really interested me the most was the fact that with my wife and I, and we had our daughter at the time, I think was like 6 or 7, I didn't have a will. And when I saw the membership and the service that it provides, it will provide a will, a living will, and a healthcare power of attorney for both my wife and I for $20 a month. And if we need to upgrade it annually, there's no additional charge. So we get our will, and a year from now, if something changes, I can send, hey, I need to change this, change that, and it won't cost me anything more other than my $19.95 a month, my membership cost.
You really can't beat that for what all you're getting. Because
a will, in most cases, can be hundreds or thousands of dollars. And to get those 6 documents for $20 a month is what caught my attention. I said, hey, I've got to have this service, period.
And can you make changes to it?
Yes, every year you can change it every year with no additional charge. If you need to change something in between, there could be a cost, but it would be very reasonable, because what I have found is these lawyers are top rate in the first place. Just our tax lawyer for the state of Tennessee knows so much about taxes in a state that if you have an issue with the IRS, he generally knows so much more than those people do. Right. He is so up to date on everything. It's just so phenomenal to be able to call and talk to some of the best legal minds in the state of Tennessee, ask a question, get an answer, and not receive an additional bill. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, especially for somebody. Could a business owner use it and have some questions about the legal side of their business?
Yes, we actually have a small business plan, specifically designed for small business owners. A small business, in our definition, is 99 employees or less. Has nothing to do with their company's worth or their gross income. We are also a leader in the voluntary employee market too.
All right.
So anyway, I see we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're winding down. So Fred, how do they get in touch with you? Because clearly they need to call and check into this more.
Best way to get a hold of me would be to call me right here at 423-331-7175. That's 423-331-7175. My name is Fred Cornell, or you can go to LegalShield.com/hub, HUB/Fred Cornell, FredCornell. Let us give you that protection and peace of mind from Legal Shield and ID Shield.
Well, Fred, I appreciate you coming in and being with us here on the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour. We didn't talk a whole lot about real estate, but we talked about something very important. So thank you for coming in. And everybody join us next Tuesday at 11 a.m. right here, 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio.
Thank you much for allowing me in.